I want to start off the conversation with, I think, a part of the proposal that you wrote, or at least had a heavy hand in, and that was getting everyone back to work and making work pay. We've seen unemployment numbers that have gone even higher than the peak of the Great Recession. So you mentioned big ideas, a vision for the future. What does this aspect of the plan envision for getting people back to work?
Well, again, we've heard from this administration promises of a kind of seamless recovery. Let's open up the economy and everybody will be reabsorbed swiftly and we'll be back to that kind of rocking growth that we had at the beginning of the year. And we don't see it happening. All the forecasts are for double-digit unemployment to persist throughout the rest of 2020. And millions of jobs have just been permanently lost. Millions of small businesses have gone under, and millions of jobs are not going to be there for people. They can't. 4.75 million people will not have jobs to go back to. At the same time, you've got young people whose lives have been put in suspended animation, coming out of college, looking for their first job, and it's that coming out and trying to find a job or even an internship in this lockdown economy has been a real challenge. So it's going to be tough, and it's going to take a real strong push from the federal government, working with state and local governments to all the education and training institutions to have what we call a national employment or reemployment push. And it ought to have a couple of really big parts. One is we want to have a real emphasis on apprenticeship, because there are going to be lots of people again who have to change jobs, change careers. They're going to need new skills, different skills, in some cases better skills. And so we want to have a tenfold increase in the number of registered apprentices in this country, because apprenticeship is just a win-win proposition for employers and for workers. So that's one thing that's going to take, it's going to take more, it's going to take federal investment. It's going to take a big push at the outset. We can't just continue on the kind of the slow evolutionary track we're on anything anymore. We need to we need shoves from the federal government, which has unique funding capacity. So that's true of all the ideas in this report, not just mine, but that's an important part of it. But at the same time, they were trying, and in other parts of the report, we talk about how to create new businesses, how to really catalyze startups. But it's also the case that we have to make work pay. This is a really important part of my section, because too many workers have fallen into this low wage trap. That is, too many workers without higher education, without college degrees, have been on a downwardly mobile track for decades now. The number of good middle income jobs available for workers, less educated workers, has been drying up. Their career prospects have been stunted. And I think this is really behind, or one of the factors behind, the kind of populist surge we've seen, not only in this country, but throughout the Western world. So you got to find a way to raise the wages of working people. And we've reached the conclusion that you've got to do that with public support. For whatever reasons, the knowledge economy isn't offering strong economic returns to lower skilled workers in the way that the factory economy did. So we proposed a living wage tax credit, which is like the earned income tax credit, another PPI favorite, that essentially takes the EITC and extends it up the income distribution, so that more working class folks could qualify for a public supplement, a work bonus for their private wages under a certain threshold. So if you'd asked me about that 10 years ago, I probably would have said that's a bad idea. But just having watched decade after decade this downward mobility trend among these workers, has convinced me that something inherent in the knowledge economy is not working to provide real middle class wages yet. And I think, and that leads us to the other part of my proposal, which is for a really robust investment in all the career pathways, career prep and training, workforce preparation and training programs that many of which are in the private sector. There's really an interesting phenomenon here where tens of thousands of business service companies are providing job matching. They're providing their own apprentices. They're hiring entry-level workers, training them in the services that they sell to corporations, and increasingly looking for opportunities to then place those workers that they've trained in the corporation that they've been working for. And we want to create incentives for these job matching, job training, and job placement companies to do more of that and be financially rewarded when they do it. And that's a really interesting new wrinkle here, because we've done public sector job placement programs forever. They haven't worked terribly well, to put it mildly. But there is this kind of what my friend Ryan Craig calls the last mile, meaning the last mile between the education institution and your job in the private sector is really hard to get through. It's a hard leap for people to make. There's a lot of friction there. And so these private intermediaries that help people get past that last mile are out there, and with the right incentives could do a lot more of the job of job matching and job placement. But the point is, unlike, and like a lot of European countries that have really, they call it active labor market policy, we don't do that very well in this country. We have flexible labor markets, which is a good thing, but we don't have second and third chance reemployment systems that work very well. And we need to make them more robust, because this isn't ordinary unemployment. This is kind of a common, it's more like a structural unemployment, because jobs have disappeared and new entrants in the job market aren't finding a way to break in.